The extreme agenda of Donald Trump's Project 2025 has become too much for some Republicans to take. Former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who's currently running for the state's open U.S. Senate seat, just wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post blasting the plan, saying it shreds American values. He writes, quote, "Toxic politics on both sides of the aisle are undermining faith in our system of government. But Project 2025 sends this disturbing trend into overdrive, casting aside the checks on the presidential power that have protected our democracy for more than 200 years. Jason Johnson is back with us. So, Dr. Johnson, Project 2025, Larry Hogan, who is really moved, and has always been in the vein of his dad, was the first member of Congress, Republican member, to go and say, Richard Nixon, you need to stand down, is sending up this alarm bell about what Project 2025 institutionally means to our country. And on the heels of the question you asked Professor Brett Schneider at the end of the last segment about the unpacking of all of this, should Project 2025 actually become the new foundation? Talk to us about what this looks like and what it means to have someone like Larry Hogan and other Republicans like myself and others saying, hey, time out, this is not what you think it is.
This is the canary in the coal mine. And I know that everybody in politics likes to operate off of anecdotes, so I'm going to do the same thing. Project 2025 is the thing that I hear from people who I know who don't care about politics. Okay, I'm out at dinner. I'm out at dinner with friends of mine in Silver Spring a couple of days ago, and my friend Dwight, shout out to Dwight, he's probably watching right now. He's like, my 14-year-old daughter said, Dad, do you know what Project 2025 is? She saw it on TikTok. My barber is saying, hey, there's a section in Project 2025 that talks about ending public schools in Washington, D.C. People who don't generally care about politics have heard about Project 2025. Over 60% of Democrats have a bad opinion of it. Over 40% of independents have a bad opinion of it. So strategically, it is the most powerful organic thing that Democrats have in order to defeat Republicans heading into the fall. Now, as a practical matter, well, it's just a fascist manifesto. I mean, that's all it is. It's Donald Trump saying, I'm going to take over the government. Everything is mine. I'm going to make sure that everything from the FDA to the FCC and everything else like that is completely under my control. It will completely disrupt the economy. You know how idiotic it is to say you're going to fire 50,000 federal employees in the first 100 days that you come? 50,000. I used to live in Ohio. There are NASA offices out there. We're not just talking about D.C. Federal government jobs are a key part of multiple economies all over the country. So I think it is the number one thing. Republicans, they ain't afraid of Joe Biden, right? They may or may not be afraid of whatever happens after the convention, but they are afraid of a policy that is organically. I think it was Ari mentioned this on the beat like a week and a half ago, that Project 2025 has now surpassed Taylor Swift as the most Googled topic in America. I think that's what he said like a week and a half ago. Like it had reached a peak about 2 weeks ago. So that is what Democrats should be talking about right now, because that's the policy people should be concerned with.
Thank you to Raji P. Henson for those Google searches, because that is part of why you saw that. Here's the thing. I think your articulation, Dr. Johnson, of Project 2025 is more on point than the way that Larry Hogan describes it. He writes this is a little bit more from his op-ed. Most Americans, regardless of party affiliation, have more in common than many realize. They want common sense solutions to address the cost of living, make our communities safer, and secure the border while fixing the broken immigration system. I agree with that part. Instead of addressing these problems, though, Project 2025 opts for total war against the other side, making it impossible to find common ground. I'm not entirely sure that that is the frame, right? That it is about the fact that they are ideologically swinging so far in one direction that it makes something like compromise impossible. I think it is important that we understand just how radical this is, right? This is not a conservative document. This is a fundamental reimagining of American government and America itself.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that Larry Hogan is an example of where Republicans are legitimately concerned about this, right? Look, I don't think he's going to win anyway. That would be my guess. I get too many text messages from his campaign trying to reintroduce him. If you're trying to reintroduce yourself to me after you've already been governor, it probably means you're down in the polls. But objectively speaking, he's not going to be the only Republican talking about this. If you are a swing state Republican, you are worried about Project 2025. If you are a down ballot Republican, you are worried about Project Project 2025. I wish that the Democrats spent as much time talking about the horrific policy agenda of their opponents as they have spent over the last 21 days attacking Joe Biden, because that's where victory lies. Victory lies in the fact that Democrats have a massive advantage amongst Democrats, amongst independents, amongst new voters in the policies that they are proposing as opposed to Republicans. Abortion, Project 2025, the border, the Supreme Court, these are all places where Democrats are more powerful than Republicans. Larry Hogan is just saying what everybody else out there in the voting spaces already understands.
This, I mean, The Intercept wrote this piece about people who are leaving Project 2025 because it's unpopular. The list keeps growing. Being listed on an advisory board indicated that we endorsed everything listed in the project, which was not the case, said Holly Weitzel of the Mackinac? It's one of these Republican think tanks, Mr. Chairman. Mackinac Center, we do not sign our name to things we do not fully endorse. Now, I find it very hard to believe they signed on to it without knowing what was inside of it. They signed on at a time when, I mean, as Brendan Buck said, nobody was talking about it. Right. The rest of us didn't know, but the people inside, the architects knew. Now that the rest of us are finding out, people are like, oh, well, now we do not. I do not support all of these things. But they're not saying what they don't support. Right. They are not saying, I haven't heard, even Larry Hogan didn't say, I don't support, which part of it don't you support? Do you not support the Comstock Act piece? Do you not support, are you against changing the Department of Health to the Department of Life? Are you against the firing the 50,000 government employees? You know, as Michael challenged asked the Heritage Foundation president here on our show about? What part of it aren't they for?
I am amused at all these people run around saying, I'm not an arsonist with smudges on their fingers, right? That's what it is. You see your finger, all the soot. It's all over the place. You're tracking all over the building. I see your fingerprints all on this. And so it's amazing to me. And again, it's the one thing we've seen Republicans be afraid of. Donald Trump tweets about it. Larry Hogan's talking about it. That's what they fear. And it's interesting to me because most people ain't going to read 900 pages, right? I count myself amongst the few people that bother to read the entire Mueller report. You know, this is a long. This 900 pages is long, but the fact that you can Google most of the information and that regular people are getting access to it should be the thing that they fear. If they had, it's such a branding mistake. Usually Republicans are better at branding. If they had called it Project for America or New Ideas for the Future, it'd be fine. But Project 2025 sounds like a doomsday device that some Bond villain came up with, and that's why people are afraid of it.
And you can find it right here on the internet.
That's right. It's right there. Laid out
here
for you.
On the internet. Just Google it up. You can click on each one. Dr. Jason Johnson, we appreciate you.
Thank you
very much.